The crystalline walls of the Galactic Council chamber gleamed with a cold, artificial light that made Jace Meridian's skin look pale and sickly. He stood in the center of the vast circular room, surrounded by towering alien figures whose expressions ranged from disgust to barely concealed satisfaction. The weight of their judgment pressed down on him like a physical force, but he kept his chin raised, green eyes blazing with defiant fire. Jace Meridian. Counselor Vorthic's voice echoed through the chamber, each syllable dripping with contempt. Xanthari's scaled face showed no emotion, but his yellow eyes gleamed with cruel pleasure. You stand accused of violating the preservation protocol, endangering civilian populations, and undermining council authority. How do you plead? Jace's hands clenched at his sides. 3 months ago, he'd been the council's golden boy, their primer xenobiologist whose research had opened doorways to understanding dozens of alien species. Now he stood here as a pariah, all because he dared to speak truth to power. I plead for sanity, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. What I did on Kepler Station wasn't a violation, it was mercy. Those creatures weren't monsters. They were protecting their young. A ripple of disapproval swept through the assembled counselors. Vorthic's lipless mouth curved in what might have been a smile if it hadn't been so cold. Your sentimentality has blinded you, human. The shadow spawn of Kepler Station were classified as a Class A threat. 37 beings died in their rampage before we could contain them. 37 beings died because your security forces opened fire first. Jace shot back, taking a step forward before the energy restraints around his wrists sparked a warning. I was trying to communicate with them. I could have prevented. Enough? Vorthic's voice cut through his protest like a blade. Your actions resulted in a diplomatic crisis that nearly destroyed our alliance with the Terran Federation. The Council has reached a decision. Jace's heart hammered against his ribs. He'd known this moment would come, but the reality of it still hit him like a physical blow. Around him, the other counselors watched with the detached interest of predators observing wounded prey. Jace Meridian, by the authority vested in us by the Galactic Accords, you are hereby sentenced to exile. You will be transported to Zerion 7, a world at the edge of the Maelstrom Nebula, where you will conduct a survey mission for the Council's archives. The words hit Jace like ice water. Zerion 7 was a death sentence wrapped in bureaucratic language. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the planet, a hellish world of perpetual storms and deadly fauna where nothing human had ever survived longer than a few hours. You're sending me there to die, he said quietly, the fight draining out of him. Vorthic's yellow eyes glittered. You're being given an opportunity to serve the Council one final time. Should you survive and complete your mission, your sentence will be ... reconsidered. The lie was so transparent it was almost insulting. Jace looked around the chamber one last time, memorizing the faces of beings he'd once respected. They'd already written his obituary. When do I leave? He asked. Immediately. Captain Stormwind is waiting to transport you. The name hit Jace like a punch to the gut. Nyx. Of course, they'd chosen her to be his executioner. Even in exile, the Council couldn't resist twisting the knife. As the energy restraints released him, Jace was escorted through the gleaming corridors of the Council, stationed toward the docking bay. His mind raced, trying to process the magnitude of what was happening. 3 days ago, he'd been in his laboratory, working on a breakthrough in interspecies communication. Now he was walking toward his death, and the woman he'd once loved would be the one to deliver him to it. The docking bay doors hissed open, revealing the sleek form of the starship Wandering Star. Jace's breath caught in his throat as a figure emerged from the ship's airlock. Captain Nyx Stormwind looked exactly as he remembered her, tall and lean, with platinum hair pulled back in a severe bun and ice-blue eyes that had once looked at him with warmth. Now, those eyes held only professional distance. "Hello, Jace," she said, her voice carefully neutral. Nix. He wanted to say more, but what was there to say? That he'd missed her? That seeing her again, even under these circumstances, made his heart race? That he was sorry for the way things had ended between them? "We should go," she said, turning back toward the ship. "The sooner we reach Zarian 7, the sooner this is over." Jace followed her aboard, acutely aware of the armed guards flanking him. The ship's interior was as he remembered it, clean, efficient, with personal touches that spoke of a woman who'd made the stars her home. A holographic display near the captain's chair showed their destination, an angry red dot at the edge of known space. "Pip, prepare for departure," Nix called out. "Aye, Captain," came the cheerful response from the ship's AI. Jace smiled despite himself. Pip had been his creation, a sophisticated artificial intelligence he'd designed to assist with xenobiological research. He'd given the AI to Nix as a parting gift when their relationship ended. Apparently, she'd kept it. "Hello, Jace." Pip's holographic avatar materialized a shimmering blue humanoid with an androgynous face and kind eyes. "It's wonderful, too. See you again, though I must say the circumstances are rather dire." "Hello, old friend," Jace replied, settling into the passenger seat. "How have you been?" "Oh, cataloging star charts, monitoring ship systems, trying to convince the captain to eat something other than protein bars," Pip said with artificial cheerfulness that didn't quite hide the concern in its voice. "The usual." As the ship lifted off from the station, Jace caught Nix watching him in the reflection of the viewport. Their eyes met for a moment, and he saw something flicker across her face. Regret, maybe, or old affection. Then her professional mask slipped back into place. The journey to Zarian 7 would take 3 days. 3 days alone with the woman who'd once shared his bed and his dreams, now tasked with delivering him to his doom. Jace leaned back in his seat and tried to prepare himself for whatever horrors awaited him on the planet below. He had no idea that his true story was just beginning, or that the death sentence the council had given him would become the greatest gift of his life. All he knew was that his heart was breaking, and soon even that wouldn't matter anymore. The stars wheeled past the viewport, cold and distant, as the wandering star carried him toward his fate. The surface of Zarian 7 was everything the horror stories claimed and worse. Jace's boots sank into the spongy, phosphorescent moss that covered the ground like a living carpet, each step releasing spores that glowed briefly in the perpetual twilight. The air tasted of copper and ozone, heavy with moisture that seemed to cling to his lungs with each breath. Above, the sky churned with violet clouds that crackled with strange energy, casting everything in an eerie, shifting light. "Environmental suit readings are stable," Pip's voice crackled through his comm unit. "Atmosphere is breathable, but I'm detecting high levels of electromagnetic interference. My long-range sensors are practically useless." Jace adjusted the pack on his shoulders, feeling the weight of his survival gear and scientific equipment. The council had provided him with enough supplies for a week, though they clearly didn't expect him to live that long. His plasma pistol felt reassuringly solid against his hip, though he wondered what good it would do against the legendary horrors of Zarian 7. "Any sign of the indigenous life forms?" he asked, scanning the twisted forest that surrounded the small clearing where Nix had landed her ship. "Negative on large fauna, but the bio readings are off the charts. This place is teeming with life, Jace. I've never seen such diversity in such a hostile environment." Despite his circumstances, Jace felt a familiar thrill of scientific curiosity. Even facing death, he couldn't suppress his wonder at the alien ecosystem around him. Bioluminescent vines hung like curtains between the trees, pulsing with rhythmic patterns that reminded him of a heartbeat. In the distance, something howled a sound that was equal parts beautiful and terrifying. The first day passed without incident. Jace cataloged flora, took atmospheric readings, and tried to ignore the growing certainty that he was being watched. It was nothing he could pinpoint, just a prickling sensation between his shoulder blades, the feeling of unseen eyes tracking his every movement. On the second morning, he found the tracks. They were massive, easily twice the size of a human. Handprint pressed deep into the moss near his campsite. 5 digits ending in claws that could have shredded his environmental suit like paper. The tracks circled his camp in a wide pattern, as if something had been studying him while he slept. Fascinating, he murmured, taking detailed scans of the prints. Bipedal gait, but the stride length suggests something much larger than human. And look at these pad marks, definitely a predator species. Jace, Pip's voice carried a note of concern. Perhaps you should consider relocating. Whatever made these tracks could return. Or I could stay and try to make contact, Jace replied, surprising himself with the suggestion. After what had happened on Kepler Station, he should have been more cautious. But something about these tracks intrigued him. They were carefully placed, almost respectful. No damage to his equipment, no signs of aggression. That night, he waited. Jace sat by his small campfire, pretending to study his datapad while his peripheral vision scanned the tree line. Hours passed. His eyes grew heavy, lulled by the rhythmic pulse of the bioluminescent vines and the distant sound of wind through the alien trees. Then he saw it. The creature emerged from the forest like a shadow given form, its massive bulk moving with surprising grace. Jace's breath caught in his throat as he took in its appearance. It stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in midnight black fur that seemed to absorb the surrounding light. Its build was humanoid, but powerfully muscled, with long arms that ended in those distinctive clawed hands. Most striking were its eyes, large, luminous, and startlingly intelligent. They fixed on Jace with an intensity that made his heart race. The creature, the legendary Shadow Maw that had supposedly killed dozens of explorers, stopped at the edge of his camp and simply watched him. Jace's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon, then stopped. There was something in those eyes, something that reminded him of the creatures he'd tried to save on Kepler Station. Not malice, but curiosity, caution. Easy, he said softly, the way he might speak to a frightened animal. I'm not here to hurt you. The Shadow Maw's massive head tilted slightly, and Jace could have sworn he saw surprise flicker across its alien features. It took a step closer, moving with deliberate care, as if trying not to startle him. You understand me, don't you? Jace whispered, wonder replacing fear in his voice. You're not just an animal. You're intelligent. The creature's response was immediate and shocking. The air around it began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from sun-baked stone. The massive form blurred, contracted, and reshaped itself. Where the fearsome predator had stood, a woman now crouched at the edge of his camp. She was breathtaking. Her skin held the same midnight hue as the creature's fur, marked with intricate patterns of bioluminescent tattoos that pulsed gently in the firelight. Her hair fell in waves around her shoulders, so black it seemed to drink in the light. But it was her eyes that held him captive, the same luminous orbs he'd seen in the Shadow Maw's face, now set in features that were undeniably, achingly beautiful. You are not like the others, she said, her voice carrying a musical quality that seemed to resonate in his chest. The ones who come here come to take, to destroy. But you ... She paused, studying him with those extraordinary eyes. You came here to understand. Jace's scientific mind reeled. A shapeshifter. A sentient species that could alter its form at will? The implications were staggering. You're incredible, he breathed. How is this possible? The energy requirements alone should be... She smiled, and the expression transformed her face from beautiful to radiant. I am Zara Moonwhisper, guardian of the deep forest. And you, Jace Meridian, are not supposed to be here. The use of his name sent a chill through him. How do you know who I am? We watch all who come to our world, she replied, settling gracefully beside his fire. The flames cast dancing shadows across her dark skin, making her tattoos pulse like living things. We know of the Council's cruelty, their practice of sending the unwanted to die on Zarian 7. But you are different. Your heart carries no malice, only curiosity and ... sadness. Jace found himself leaning forward, drawn by something he couldn't name. We? There are more of you. Zara's expression grew solemn. Many more. My people have lived in the deep places of this world since before your species reached the stars. We are the true guardians of Zarian 7, protectors of its secrets and its life. Then why do you let them think this place is a death world? Why not reveal yourselves to the Council? The bioluminescent patterns on her skin flared brighter, and, for a moment, Jace saw something fierce and protective in her eyes. Because the Council would do to us what they do to all things they cannot control. They would study us, cage us, use us. Better to let them think we are monsters than to become their slaves. Understanding dawned on Jace like a cold sunrise. The explorers who disappeared, you didn't kill them, did you? Some we saved, brought to our cities in the deep places. Others, ... Her voice grew heavy. Others came with weapons and fire, seeking to claim our world by force. We defended ourselves. They sat in silence for a while, the crackling of the fire the only sound between them. Jace found himself studying her face in the dancing light, cataloging the alien beauty of her features. There was something magnetic about her, something that drew him like a moth to flame. Why are you telling me this? He asked finally. Zara turned to meet his gaze, and he saw something vulnerable in her expression. Because you are the first to look at me, at my true form, without fear. The first to see beyond the monster to the being beneath. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. And because you will not live to betray our secrets. Jace's blood turned to ice. You're going to kill me? No. Her hand moved to rest on his, and he was startled by the warmth of her touch. The Council will. They are coming, Jace Meridian. A mining fleet approaches our world, sent to strip away everything we hold sacred. They believe you are already dead, that Zarian 7 is empty and ready for exploitation. The pieces fell into place with horrible clarity. The exile, the impossible mission, the timing it had all been planned. The Council hadn't just wanted him dead. They'd wanted him out of the way so they could destroy another world without interference. How long do we have? He asked, his mind already racing with possibilities. 3 days, perhaps 4. Zara squeezed his hand, and he felt something. Electric passed between them. Will you help us, Jace Meridian? Will you stand with us against those who would see our world burn? Jace looked into her luminous eyes and saw his future reflected there. Not the death sentence the Council had intended, but something far more. Precious purpose, belonging, and the first stirrings of something that felt dangerously like love. Yes, he said, surprised by the certainty in his voice. I'll help you save your world. Zara smiled, and in that moment, Jace realized that his exile had become his salvation. The hidden city of Thyros took Jace's breath away. Carved into the living rock of a massive cavern system deep beneath Zarian 7's surface, it pulsed with the same bioluminescent energy that flowed through the planet's veins. Towering spires of crystalline growth spiraled toward the cavern ceiling, their surfaces alive with patterns of light that shifted and danced like aurora. Bridges of woven biomatter connected the structures, and everywhere Jace looked, he saw Zara's people-some. In their humanoid forms, others as magnificent beasts, all moving with purpose and grace. "Your species has built paradise underground," Jace whispered, his scientific mind cataloging details even as his heart swelled with wonder. Zara walked beside him, her hand occasionally brushing his as they navigated the winding paths. Each casual touch sent electricity through his veins, a reminder of the growing connection between them. "We have had centuries to perfect our harmony with this world," she replied, pride evident in her voice. "Everything here lives in balance." They were interrupted by the approach of an ancient figure, tall and lean, with skin that held the deep blue-black of ocean depths and eyes that gleamed like stars. Elder Corvain moved with the measured dignity of someone who had seen empires rise and fall, his gaze assessing Jace with careful consideration. "So this is the human who would stand with us," Corvain said, his voice carrying the weight of ages. "Zara speaks highly of your character, but character alone will not stop the destroyers." Jace met the elder's gaze steadily. "Then we'll use more than character. I know their technology, their tactics. If we work together." "Together?" Corvain mused, his eyes flicking between Jace and Zara with unmistakable meaning. "Yes, I see the bond forming between you. But bonds can be tested in ways you cannot imagine, young human." Before Jace could ask what he meant, alarms began echoing through the cavern. The bioluminescent walls pulsed urgent red, and Zara's people scattered with practiced efficiency. "What is it?" Jace asked. Zara's form shimmered, beginning the change toward her beast. Shape, then stopped. Her eyes met his with grim certainty. "They're early. The mining fleet has arrived." The surface of Zarian 7 had been transformed into a hellscape of machinery and devastation. Massive excavators gouged wounds in the planet's flesh, while plasma torches carved through the ancient forests. The air filled with smoke and the screaming of dying trees as the Council's operation stripped away millennia of growth in mere hours. Jace crouched behind a fallen log, watching the destruction through binoculars. Beside him, Zara trembled with barely controlled rage, her form flickering between human and beast as her emotions overwhelmed her control. "They're targeting the sacred groves first," she whispered, her voice thick with anguish. "Those trees are over 1,000 years old. They're the heart of our world's bio-network." Jace reached out instinctively, covering her hand with his. The moment their skin touched, her flickering stabilized, the warmth of human connection anchoring her to her chosen form. Neither of them spoke of the intimacy of the gesture, but both felt its significance. "There," Jace pointed toward a cluster of prefabricated buildings at the operations center. "That's the command center. If we can get inside, access their systems." He was cut off by the whine of atmospheric engines. A sleek ship descended through the smoke-filled sky, its hull bearing the distinctive markings of an independent captain. Jace's heart clenched with recognition even before the vessel landed and its airlock cycled open. Captain Nyx Stormwind emerged, her platinum hair catching the harsh industrial lighting. She wore her dress uniform, the formal attire she reserved for official council business, but her ice-blue eyes were troubled as they surveyed the devastation around her. "She's beautiful," Zara observed quietly, and Jace realized she'd been watching his reaction. "And she loves you." "Loved," Jace corrected automatically, then stopped. The past tense felt like a lie on his tongue. They watched as Nyx approached the command center, clearly expected by the mining operations supervisor, a brutish man in expensive suits who gestured grandly at the destruction around them as if it were art. Even from a distance, Jace could see the tension in Nyx's posture, the way her hands clenched at her sides. "She doesn't approve of this," he murmured, surprised by the observation. "Then why is she here?" Zara asked, though her tone held no accusation, only curiosity. "Because she follows orders." Because she believes the system can be fixed from within. Jace's voice carried old frustration. It's why we broke up. She couldn't understand why I had to fight them directly. Zara studied his profile in the firelight, reflected from the burning forest. And now? Now I know she was wrong. Some systems can't be reformed. They have to be torn down and rebuilt. That night, they made their approach to the mining camp. Under cover of darkness, Zara's shape-shifting abilities made her the perfect scout, her beast form allowing her to move through the devastated landscape like a shadow. Jace followed her lead, his heart hammering as they drew closer to their destination. They had almost reached the command center when everything went wrong. Spotlights blazed to life, turning night into day and pinning them in their glare. Armed, security forces emerged from concealment, weapons trained on them with professional precision. And walking toward them with measured steps was Nyx, her face a mask of professional calm that didn't quite hide the storm in her eyes. "Stand down," she ordered, her voice carrying across the compound. "Both of you." Jace raised his hand slowly, feeling Zara tense beside him. Her form began to shimmer, the change toward her more dangerous shape beginning, but he caught her wrist. "Don't," he said quietly. "Not yet." Nyx approached until she stood just outside arm's reach, her gaze moving between them with careful assessment. Up close, Jace could see the strain in her features, the lines of sleepless nights and difficult choices. "Hello, Jace," she said, her voice carrying a wealth of complex emotion. "I wondered if I'd find you alive. Disappointed?" he asked, unable to keep the bitterness from his voice. Something flickered across her face pain, perhaps a regret. No, never that. Her eyes shifted to Zara, taking in the alien woman's exotic beauty and the protective way she stood beside Jace. "So this is what changed your mind about dying?" Zara stepped forward slightly, her chin raised in defiance. "I am Zara Moonwhisper, guardian of Zarian 7, and you are trespassing on sacred ground." "Sacred ground," Nyx repeated, her tone carefully. "Neutral. The Council's surveys showed no indigenous intelligent life." "The Council sees only what it wishes to see," Zara replied, her bioluminescent tattoos pulsing brighter in her agitation. "Your people destroy without understanding, take without asking." "My people," Nyx said with emphasis, "are following legal salvage protocols for an uninhabited world." "This world is not uninhabited," Jace interjected, stepping between the two. "Women, Nyx, listen to me. There's an entire civilization here, ancient and beautiful, and conveniently discovered just as you face exile." She cut him off. "How fortunate for you, Jace. A cause worth dying for, complete with an exotic princess to save." The words stung because they held a grain of truth that Jace couldn't deny. He had found something worth fighting for, and Zara was indeed exotic and beautiful. But there was so much more to it than that. "It's not like that," he said quietly. "Isn't it?" Nyx's professional mask slipped, revealing the hurt beneath. "I mourned you, Jace. I actually mourned you. And here you are, very much alive, and apparently very much in love." The accusation hung in the air between them. Jace looked at Zara, saw the way the firelight caught in her luminous eyes, the way she stood ready to defend him with her life. Then he looked back at Nyx, at the woman who had shared his bed and his dreams for 3 years, who had been his partner in everything until their ideological differences drove them apart. "Yes," he said finally, "I am in love. But not the way you think." Zara's sharp intake of breath told him she'd understood the implications of his words. Nyx's eyes narrowed, her hand moving instinctively toward her sidearm. "Captain, one of." The security officers called out, "We have orders to detain any survivors for interrogation." Nyx hesitated, her gaze locked with Jace's. In that moment, he saw the woman he'd fallen in love with years ago, brilliant, conflicted, torn between duty and conscience. He saw the exact moment she made her choice. "Stand down," she ordered, her voice carrying new resolve. "All of you, stand down." The security team hesitated, confusion evident in their postures. Their hesitation lasted exactly long enough for Zara to act. Her transformation was like watching liquid shadow given form. One moment she stood beside Jason, her human shape. The next, the massive shadow maw erupted from where she'd been standing. Security forces scattered as she bowled through their ranks, her roar echoing across the compound like thunder. "Go!" Nyx shouted over the chaos, her weapon drawn but not. "Aimed at them. Whatever you're planning, do it now." Jace looked at her one last time, seeing understanding and something that might have been blessing in her eyes. Then he was running toward the command center, trusting Zara to clear their path, his heart pounding with more than just exertion. Behind them, alarms wailed and weapons fired, but Jace's attention was focused ahead. They had one chance to save. Zarian 7, one opportunity to expose the Council's lies and protect the world that